Hey guys, I'm Tien here, and I've got a very special guest with us today. We're doing a kind of like a small interview. This is Blueskycandy, or he sometimes goes by Michael Yap. He came eighth place in Ascent Singapore recently. So, how was your overall experience, Michael, in Singapore?
I think it was great. I actually got quite lucky. Didn't pair into my worst matchups throughout the Swiss round, so I'm kind of glad.
Yeah, I know that you're actually from Singapore, aren't you?
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
it feels good to actually place top eight in the country where I was from. Like, I wanted to do well in Singapore, and I actually did well.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And yeah, so I guess you mentioned that you came from Singapore. Where are you now?
Oh, I'm actually living in Melbourne, so I mean I play in the same locals as you. So
Yeah, I
why you
don't know.
asking me this question?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to lead into the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah. So we see each other all the time, and locals have a lot
Yeah.
of fights at store champs, regionals, all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Um, and then I guess for the viewers, how would you say you used to usually like leading into a big tournament? How do you usually prepare, um, like leading up to a tournament?
So of course, there's always like meta decks for every season. We usually just shortlist a couple of decks that we think that it's viable in the tournament, and then we just run it into each other. Or there's another method that we like to use as well. It's like figuring out what people is gonna play and playing the deck that actually counters it. So leading up to Singapore, I think we actually thought that most people were gonna play Slimes, which was actually overperforming a lot of the smaller regionals and store champs as well. And I picked Tristan because I thought Tristan did fairly well against Slimes.
Yeah, that definitely is. Yeah, and in the end, like it was the right call for sure because you placed top eight. Was there any matchups that you found was particularly difficult, and how did you like prepare for those?
I think in the Swiss round, the matchups that I actually lost to was a Fire Tenoris. I just didn't see the cards that you need to see. You need to see specific cards against those matchups. And I think I lost to a Rai as well, which is, you know, Rise can just steal games from you and you don't even know how they do it. Like if you don't see in cap, you're dead. So that's
Yeah,
pretty much it. Yeah. I think as well I drew into Water Allies. That matchup I think if we played out, there is a chance that I might have lost because I didn't draw too well in that game, and I think he's already established quite a um, good board state. Um, I think Water Allies might be a bit more tough with the Outlook ban because in the past you could just trigger Outlook. They can't respond to the trigger because Song of Frost is a combat only card. Frostbind is a play only card, cast only card. So you always play the Outlook first, trigger it, then maybe drop a Sadie and trade into the board state, and they can't do anything about it. But with the Outlook ban, I think Water Allies is a more rough matchup for Tristan.
yeah, it definitely is, and yeah, because in the past, Outlook was just like a permanent what allies can't play the game for the whole turn, and
Yes.
yeah. So in that sense, do you think the Outlook ban was correct or necessary?
I think for the future game state, of course, you can't have a card that doesn't allow your opponent to play cards because the game needs interaction. So I think definitely the Outlook ban was a good move by Weeps, but I thought that they could actually ban Outlook after when AMB is released, just like Erupting Rhapsody, because without Outlook, a lot of the core fundamentals about the deck doesn't actually work. Um, we swapped the Outlook slot with Besiege the Winds, thinking that it can actually help you generate extra prep counters as well, besieging out the Windwalker boots, but there's just so much things that Outlook do. It's actually a creature, it's a target for your reclaim. It's so hard to replace something that's like quasi Outlook. Even if you just remove the text and say that you don't get the activator effect, I think people will still play it because it's a 2 cost, 1/3 creature that gives you a prep counter.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I know at one point I was playing a lot of like Wind Ally Xander, and losing the Outlook hurt a lot because it means you can't play a lot of the cards that require a prep counter. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it would be nice if they replace Outlook with just even just like a vanilla 1/3 with on enter gain and prep counter would be nice.
Yeah, and it
to
has to
have.
be wind element as well, so it helps with
Oh
the
yeah,
fairy whispers. Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Fairy whispers. And yeah, I noticed in the deck list you guys had a very funny like one of Diablerie.
Okay.
Did that actually come up for you in the end? Did you ruin anyone's day with that card?
Yes, yes. So I think I can't remember. It was probably day one, probably round three or round four, or maybe even after lunch. There was this match that he got Diablo Raid game one, and then he was slimes, of course. And you know when you hit the Quicksilver Grill, it really makes their life quite miserable. It really, really slows down how the deck progresses. So he lost game one. Game two, he didn't even play it out. When I Diablo, he was actually from behind already. When he got Diablo Ray in game two, he just scooped and he just conceded. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that was completely high roll. Like I saw Diablo Ray in both games. That usually doesn't happen. But yeah, the choice of Diablo Ray was just that we could use some other cards like Umbra Sight. But I asked myself, like, what actually makes the opponent's psyche get hurt the hardest? So I chose Diablo Ray instead of Umbra Sight.
yeah. So you chose mental damage. You weren't playing to win the game. You were choosing like you wanted to beat the opponent
But
mentally,
yeah,
not just
but
win the game.
if you land it against Sylvie, it's 100% like I think it's so much into your favor. Their materialization is so important, especially with like the ability to release the material card under the Quicksilver Grill at any point of time. Covenant of Thorns, Verdant Scepter. It's so powerful. If you take away that option for them, I think the deck actually get slowed down quite a bit, even defensively and offensively.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a very good tech to have in the deck. And from what I know, it's only going to get better, especially once people start playing Imperial Seal decks, the new card. You can straight up remove someone's win condition. So I
Yes.
imagine, are you going to be continue to play Tristan in the future?
Uh, I think the deck doesn't really perform well in this meta. They did print a couple of cards that help with prep counter generation, but I don't think that's enough. There's also a new card that they made, Staggering Strike. I think if you get striked pre-level 2, it's, it's probably game over. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because you can only generate like 4 or 5 prep counters, and if you lose all that, that's your whole momentum for the game gone.
Yeah, it's too slow. The deck already struggles with making prep counters. If you take away any more prep counters, yeah, it will it will be pretty bad.
Yeah, but do you think people will actually run Staggering Strike to counter Tristan?
If Tristan becomes meta, yes, for sure, but I don't think Tristan has a place in Multi Ambition.
Hmm. Damn, that's sad. Because I know I love Tristan. I know a lot of other people do. The artwork's amazing, so it's gonna be. Hopefully, someone cooks it out up there. But from the sounds of it, you guys you've got something else in the tank. I won't leak too many of those there. Yeah. If we
Oh,
move, oh
you mean
sorry.
like what current deck I think it's gonna do well in the current meta or
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, we'll go with that. So, what do you think we're going so you're moving into A and B now that we finished MRC. What do you think we're gonna see like in the next metagame for Toronto and New Zealand?
I heard on the community there's a really broken deck out there. It's called Vanitas. You don't even have to
Yep.
go to advanced element. You just play 3 visits and you win the game. I think that deck's really powerful. I personally tested many decks into that deck. They don't have to draw perfect, they don't have to see perfect, but they just do consistently well. Whereas like if you're playing any other decks like Water Allies, Luxem Xander, you actually have to draw well against them. So yeah, I I do suspect something will be done to Vanitas. It's just too consistent, the deck.
Hmm. Yep. And just for any viewers who don't know the deck, that's the Razor Gale calling deck. I've seen a lot of them use slimes to help with their draw engine, and at some point it does feel ridiculously consistent to the point where like I think it kind of feels like erupting, but if like it's better than erupting even, which is a potential problem with the game. But
It's
would you agree
less
with that kind of
Yeah, it's
statement?
way less oil than erupting. It's consistent because it pressures you and at the same time it plays extremely defensively. So you need to kind of interact with the Fantasia, which not many elements can do anyway. I think it's only Windex, so it kind of locks you into playing just one element. Frostbinding the 3 visits or the Fairy Whispers doesn't do anything anyway because you've already activated a wind card. So yeah,
Yeah, so maybe we'll see a lot of it in Toronto, and hopefully, well, I don't know. I assume the deck will do well, but not sure if it's so overpowered that the devs need to step in and do anything about it. Apart from that, so moving off like the topic of meta, if we go to more casual decks, have you found any decks that you find extremely fun to play?
I think Jin is really fun.
Yeah,
I
yeah, true.
can't seem to get it to work.
Mm. Yeah, it's always fun definitely seeing like people, like I saw a picture the other day. It was a Jin mirror that the damage counter was 120 damage taken. I just looked at it for ages. I was like, how did this happen?
That's
How did someone not
ridiculous.
die? Yeah, it's
Absolutely
always funny to just
ridiculous.
see the damage numbers come out.
They must
Yeah,
have drawn a million cards and just like pushed all the damage in one turn.
yeah, and the fact that no one like died, it means it was all done in one turn. That's actually
Yeah.
crazy to see. And then, do you think we'll see much of Kong Ming as well?
Kongming, I think, water. I have some friends that's trying Water Kongming. Seems like it draws a lot of cards. Seems pretty consistent, but the general feedback about it is like, oh, Merlin just does it better. Like, why play Kongming?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, the entire set is like secretly Merlin support. It's a little scary if you think about it. Like
Yeah, a
they
lot
made
of
a
mage
warrior class.
supports. Yeah,
Yeah,
warrior
and
support, mage support.
yeah, mage warrior support. It's like who thought this was a good idea? They forgot to look at Merlin, who's a bit, she's been prevalent for a little bit of the game.
Mm.
She only won worlds. No big deal.
I think Merlin still does pretty well. If you want to pick out a deck that plays itself, Merlin's a good deck to play.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I think the what are your thoughts on like the new set and helping new players? Because that was the intention of the new set. How do you think? Like, do you think it's a good? What are your thoughts on the new set, basically?
It's kind of good that okay, it's not good for people that played the game a lot because you only get to choose one of the new advanced element heroes. So your deck building, it's already kind of focused and shifted to just one style of playing. But it kind of helps new players as well because it's more straightforward, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
At the same time, it's like I don't think there's a lot of complicated interactions in this set, except for Razor Gale calling because that one will cause a lot of issues with all the triggers and that sort of thing. Like, it pretty much any card you play in your deck, it's win, right? It triggers off Razor Gale calling, and people forget about it or play Veiling Breeze. Opponent didn't take 2 or didn't take 1 damage, and then like it will be a judge call. It's gonna be really messy. I think that's the only card that's probably problematic, but most of the other cards they made in A and B are quite straightforward, I think. Way more straightforward than Mercurial Hearts.
Yeah, I think at least with Jin, it's quite straightforward. I think also one other thing that might cause problem with like is the triggers of Kong Ming, where every time you play a spell, you have to change the wind, and then that can proc other things, and people might actually forget the stack, what's on
Yes.
the stack. So that's another thing that is complex, but at the same time, I feel like for most sets, you need a deck that's one that's easy and then one that's complex to appeal to both casuals and competitive players.
Mm,
Yeah,
that's kind of
that's it for
true.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, well, I guess moving on from there, what do you think if you had to put like a top three decks that we'll see shaping up the meta moving forward? What would your top three be?
You mean right now?
Yeah, right now. Yep.
I probably suspect people will bring aggro allies kind of deck into Toronto because that's usually what happens. I played around a little bit with Water Lorraine allies. Seems pretty good with the new support cards. That's probably one of the decks I think might be a contender for Toronto. Second, I mean Vanitas is one of them as well. And then the third deck, probably say Nico or Slime still. It's still pretty decent decks to play. They're not too hard because people have been practicing them all season, the previous season. Nico might be a bit challenging, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Nico, although Nico, the problem about Nico is most Nico players don't really do well against slimes. There is a very specific line that you have to play to prevent, the slimes from overrunning your deck. So Nico might be a bit challenging still to play for some players.
Yep. And what are your thoughts on the change for entry pricing for regionals? Where they made the entry pricing a binder instead of the traditional playmat.
Oh, I really like that. Like, we have too much playmats.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's hard for them to design playmats that are attractive to people to come and play the regionals. Say, for example, if you live in an area that has a lot of regionals around you, you're more likely to just. I mean, if you want to farm elo, that's a different story, right? You'll go to all the regionals. You have like multiple copies of the same playmat, and you'll be like, what am I gonna do with them? They're just gonna sit in my house and just collect dust, right? But if I have like binders instead, okay, even if I don't like the design, at least there's some utility to the binders.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would help you as well because I know you run a business. You run Elusive TCG, is it?
I do it
Yep.
with Jason. Yeah, it's just a side gig that we decided to start up initially when DOA came out to help the players to get single cards in Oceania.
Yep. Yeah. So if you guys ever want to buy cards, hit up Elusive TCG, and yep, you can get them from the man Michael himself.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for giving us the free advertisement.
Of course, I got you. But yeah. Um, yeah, thanks for coming onto the show, Michael. And is there any last comments you wanted to say uh, to all the viewers?
No, I think um, pretty much the best advice to playing Grand Archive is to play a deck that you're very comfortable with playing, so that you know your lines well. Instead of taking a deck that people say are meta decks, but you have no practice on, and then going to a big tournament and making a big mistake. Because what I noticed is a lot of people actually fail to find in major tournaments. Like they play Dungeon Guide and not get their level 3 hero out. And I think that's pretty much game over if that happens.
Yeah. Actually, now that you mentioned it, though, what do you like? Do you think that fail to find Dungeon Guide rule should exist, or what are your thoughts on it?
I think most of the time people would actually look for their level 3 heroes, but this happens usually is when someone's feeling a lot of stress in a big tournament and they just skip steps in their head already. They're like, okay, I'm gonna, especially Merlin players, they will play Dungeon
Yeah.
Guide and play Ghost of Pendragon, or Slimes, they'll play like Dungeon Guide, then take level 3 Sylvie, and then like take Ethereal Slime out instantly. Yes, that usually happens. I think the rule exists for a reason. I think it should stay. It because look, like the game should reward people that actually how do I put it? Like they follow the processes well, and they don't like create this kind of like confusion. Playing cleanly. That's what that was the word I was trying to find. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So where can we expect to see you next in terms of big events?
I think Christchurch is coming up. I will be flying down to Christchurch to play Path of Steel. I'll be going Santa Clara as well, but I might not compete at Santa Clara. We'll see how it goes.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah. Hopefully, if anyone wants to meet you, they'll come up, say hi. Yeah, at Christchurch or Santa Clara.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I have to defend my title in Christchurch. No, I'm joking. I'm
that's
joking.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, actually, oh yeah, I didn't mention that yet. That's true. You did win the previous New Zealand Ascent, which was in Auckland, I believe.
Yes, that's right.
Yep, true.
Yeah.
So I guess New Zealand is gonna come back, take the title back.
Yeah.
You're currently
I,
holding it.
I think they are gunning for my head.
Yeah. Well, best of luck holding on to your title, and
Yeah.
congratulations once again on the recent top 8
Yeah.
in Singapore.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No worries. Yeah, thanks for coming onto the show.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.